Are you guys a fan of the show? If you are, we have a VIP subscription that you can sign up to get much more of your girls here.
Become a premium subscriber and get access to exclusive episodes, ad-free listening, discounts on merch, and so much more. Plus, it's only $5 a month, which is way cheaper than your everyday latte.
To sign up, just go ahead and go to the show notes and you can click the link. Hi, Ash.
Hi, Taryn.
Renee. I had like a really cute moment the other day that I've been waiting to tell you about. Because we were on the phone with each other. One of the many times.
I feel like
we talk more on the phone now than we have before, but because usually we're both driving when we're trying to catch up or whatever.
Yes.
But I was driving and I was talking to you on the phone, and then when we got off the phone, I don't think I've ever really connected that we kind of end the episodes the way that me and you naturally end our conversations. Have you ever?
Yes.
I've never noticed that. And I just had this really sweet moment where I was like, that just shows how much we love everyone who listens. Cause we end our conversation with the podcast the way we as best friends end our conversations. And
it's
I just
always
thought it was
K
cute.
Bye or K love you bye.
Yeah, love you bye. We always, I don't know. I just thought that was cute.
You know what's crazy is I've put that together, but I never really realized. I think we subconsciously just did it.
That's what everything in this podcast has just organically rolled into it. The only thing we actually planned was doing it.
Right.
Starting the podcast.
Totally. But so
everything
bizarre.
the Tearing It Ups, the October series, the deeper stories, the dad jokes, the fun facts, everything was just a natural it just
segue
happened
into how we normally interact with each other.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's why we're such a vibe.
Yeah, but
Because
just
in real
case,
life, we are a vibe.
we are a vibe.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like, or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. And that's why I love therapy. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And here's the best part. You can switch your therapist at any time for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/unsolicited today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/unsolicited. Also, if you have any stories that you would like us to read on our podcast, this is your moment to shine. Send your emails at, what's the email called, Taryn?
Advice, unsolicitedpod@gmail.com. It can be funny. It can be sad. It can be deep. It can be light. It can be your story. It can be a friend's. It could be short. It could be long. All shapes and sizes are welcome. So send it in today.
Guys, I've been meaning to do this in the beginning of the episodes and I keep forgetting, but I just wanted to quickly just remind you guys that October series is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And lately I've been saying it at the end of the episode, but it's now coming quickly. So we're putting it at the beginning as a friendly reminder. If you have any scary stories that you want read on this podcast, then send them in now and title it October series so that we can put it in the right folder.
Yep.
Because we're organized queens.
Ash, let's be real. So Mandy can put it in the right folder.
So Mandy can put it in the right folder. Our girl Mandy. For Mandy.
We love Mandy.
Also, if you guys don't know, we have a premium subscription service, Supercast, where you can listen to more bonus content of Taryn and I. We do solo episodes. We do AMAs. We do super fun, super scary stories. So if you love October series, definitely sign up for Supercast now so that you can get extra October series stories because we're going to be doing the same thing for the entire month on Supercast. So you'll be getting double.
Also, something that's become kind of my favorite thing about Supercast is we've started having, because it is a smaller, more intimate group.
Yeah.
People write in from Supercast subscribers write in saying, hey, we want this story only for Supercast.
Only on Supercast.
And I feel like it's this really intimate, I feel like you're almost insured your story gets read if it's hey, this is for Supercast. And it's I don't know, it just feels more raw and intimate because it's not as
It's a close circle for sure. And it's been super fun. And they're even going to be putting like scary stories for Supercast only.
Yep.
So definitely check us out there. And then again, I feel like our YouTube group has been growing phenomenally.
I noticed that too.
Everyone's been having so much fun watching us and like talking about like how we look or how we like what we do with our hands while we're like chatting. Definitely if you want to check us out on YouTube, you can actually watch us in real time while we talk instead of just listening to our beautiful voices. So there's options for you out there.
Yeah.
So give us a listen, give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a rate review. That helps the pod.
Yeah.
Only our diehards rate, review, subscribe.
Only the diehards. I've never even done that for anyone. So I just want to throw that out there. If you do it for me,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's funny because speaking of like podcasts, I feel like when people find out like I do a podcast or social media or like when I was doing stuff on YouTube, you know, and people will be like, oh, well, who's your inspiration? Like what are like YouTubers you've watched or podcasts you've listened to? And I think it's so funny because I'm the worst. Like I had never even listened to a podcast when Ash first approached me with it. But then I might have just started listening to Crime Junkie.
I think I introduced you to
Serial. That was my first
And that
one.
was your first podcast.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, what? Like you don't listen to podcasts? And then I was like, well, if you're going to listen to one, Serial. It has to be Serial.
Yeah, which thank God I did. That was like such a good one. And then I kind of have just stuck with like, I have like a couple true crime podcasts I listen to. But like YouTube, I never watched YouTube. I mean, I would watch your guys' sometimes or like when I edited it, like obviously I'd see it. But it's always so funny because we'll be like, oh, like talking about podcast things. And I'm like, I'm so terrible, like as a consumer of other podcasts. But what I was going to say is I was talking to like, I don't know, this guy about like how I listen to like true crime stuff and how the way that I think. Like I think in this like, I've decided instead of being scared of everything, I'm just going to be very proactive with preparing myself. And that way I can like let things go. But like how I just have like weapons hidden throughout my life or like how I'm like always thinking 10 steps ahead or whatever. And he just thought it was like so funny. And he was like, well, why do you listen to that stuff? And I was like, I don't know.
I don't know, but I love it.
Why do we love it so much? It's like always females too.
I think podcasts specifically made it feel weird, but like people read true crime all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that bizarre. I think if we're going to be honest, I think 90% of the true crime happens to women. So I think there's an intrigue there in like, how can I protect, and research, learn, look out for, what are the red flags? I mean, I listen to so many, I can't even like walk to my car, walk down the street, take my dog for a walk without like looking at someone walking by. And I think it's a scary world we live in. And I think as a female in general, it feels like I'm learning about what could be or what could happen. And I'd rather know and be prepared than like be blindsided.
Yeah, it's funny.
But also, I love a good mystery, and a lot of them are. So it's not necessarily always that deep, but I think in a deep-seated way, that's like, it's the real thing for a lot of women.
No, yeah, that's what I'm listening for is like, how did that person become the way they were? What were the red flags?
Yeah.
How was the person abducted? Because I think about that. And I've learned a lot about like how to get into my car and how to like
what
whatever.
To look for.
Yeah, but it is funny. I think it's really interesting. I was like, one of the guys I like used to hang out with we were having a conversation one time, and it honestly was such a turnoff to me because he was like talking about how, like we like never lock our door and we like blah, 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 blah. And
cool. I'm not safe with you.
Girl. And that was his response to me talking about how I have to be careful about something.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like I never blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, even just the ignorance of you not understanding the difference of why I have to be like that. And so I did. I was like, yeah, that must be amazing and feel so freeing. I was like, as a female, I can't even like walk alone anywhere without in the back of my head thinking like, okay, what would I do? What would I grab if like someone attacked me? He was just like, oh, I guess I just don't think that way. And I was like,
male privilege. Hello.
I'm done. Like, I'm done with you.
Grab addiction. Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
When people of any sort just can't even think of what it must be like outside of their lives.
Yeah, like acknowledge someone else.
Goes to me too. Like for other people in different situations, like it's important to like put yourself in their shoes. What must that be like? You know?
But then you hear of these men, like these freaking kings among us that will. I don't know if it was a TikTok or somebody. I saw something where this girl was saying. She was like, I just want to say thank you to the 3 men who visibly noticed me get uncomfortable when they came into the elevator with me and over the top started talking about how they were like, basically they were like very open about like, hey, we're gay and like kind of like winked at her like, you're okay. Yeah. But I'm like, even like that, just acknowledging or seeing like, oh, I'm sorry I scared you, or like making sure like the way they act or whatever is like, is like disarming. Like, don't worry. Like, you're fine. Yeah. But I just think it's so wild when men are like, oh, you're such a baby. Oh, you have a taser. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Ew. Okay.
I have 3.
If that's someone's reaction, get the out of here. No one wants you around. You're not fun. Like the fact that you would put a woman down for having some type of protection on her. Screw you. Ew.
No.
Garbage. Trash.
Like, we don't want to be this way.
No. I would love to not have to pack a bigger bag to hold my knife or my taser or
to be
my
able to
pepper
wear,
spray.
Like headphones and just walk and like whatever, instead of being like, oh no, I need to have one ear open so I can hear footsteps approaching me, or like, oh, I need to wear my hair like this because ponytails are easy for people to grab and drag you. It's like the stuff we have to think about on the daily is wild.
Yeah, especially in LA.
Be nice, but don't be too nice, but don't be rude because you're a target. But like, if you smile too much, that's an encouragement. That's inviting. It's like.
She was asking for it. Look what she was wearing. Wild. She was not.
Wild.
She was not. I agree with the TikToks. There was one that I saw of this guy and he was like, he was filming himself and he said something about her outfit as she was like walking by. And she gave him like this side eye and was like, didn't say anything, and he goes, oh no, and he corrected and said it in like a very, very over exaggerated gay voice, and she was like, oh, thank you. And it was like the cutest interaction because he was like, oh no honey, and then just like over the top made it clear that he's not a threat, and then the way she like turned around and twirled and was like, oh, thanks, it was like it was so sweet, and it just goes to show like it's, you know, it's just not
You're
the same.
On edge like
it's
all
a different
the time. Yeah.
life than it is for men. So.
Well, even I was outside. I don't know. Wow. I don't know how we got on this, but I think it's a very relevant topic.
Yeah,
also,
totally.
This is our 2nd episode. So I'm like, I have nothing else to catch you up on.
Second episode's always a little like, what?
But the other day I was sitting outside of Ashley's house in my car and I was just preparing for the long drive and like answering emails and texts, whatever. And all of a sudden I like jumped because there was a man at my window. And he's just talking to me. And I'm looking at him like, bro, I can't hear anything you're saying. So I rolled down my window just like slightly. And I was like, huh? And he's like, oh, you must have like good energy. And I was like, what? Huh? He's like, yeah, my dog has stopped at your car like 3 times. Like, he's like drawn to your car. You must have good energy. And it's funny because the whole conversation, this man was so sweet, but the whole time I'm like, okay, I've heard about these approaches. Yeah. I'm like looking in my window like someone's going to come smash my window on this side. Yeah. My window was like only rolled down like a crack. I was like, if he tries to get me out of the car at all, like I'm just going to book it. Yeah. Like my mind is going 1,000 miles a minute because I'm like, I've heard about these approaches. Yes. Like I have to be careful. And he ended up literally I think he just wanted to ask me out. And my fake boyfriend came. He always saves me.
Yeah. What's his
name?
name?
No one else is there, he's there.
Does
he
have
doesn't even need a name.
Doesn't need a name.
He's so selfless. He's like, I don't need anything from you.
I have a boyfriend, not even a name. But like, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Made my day. Bye.
Yeah. And what I appreciated is the second I said, I was like, oh, sorry. Like I have a boyfriend. He was like, cool, have a best day, and just walked away. Where sometimes they'll be like, well, I don't see a ring. Yeah. And you're like, okay.
You're like, okay, well, that was me being nice and saying I'm not interested.
But it was just so sad because I was like, that was probably such an innocent,
pure
interaction. And this guy was so sweet. He was so complimentary. He was like, you're so beautiful. Like, talking about his dog, like, oh, what do you do for work? Like, where do you live? And of course, I lied everything I said because in my mind, I'm scared because I'm like, I'm in a car by myself. Like, somehow he's going to like distract me while someone else pulls me from, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so sad.
Oh, it's such a bummer because like, that's what we want guys to do, right? We're always complaining that like guys don't make moves and then like one does and you're nervous the whole time that it might be something else. Such a bummer. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like, or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. And that's why I love therapy. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. You guys already know Taryn and I are huge advocates for therapy. It has changed both of our lives dramatically, and we cannot recommend it enough. A common misconception, though, is that you have to have gone through something in order to need therapy, and that is so not the case. Therapy can be so helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who have experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And here's the best part. You can switch your therapist at any time for no additional charge. Taryn and I strongly believe that sometimes it takes a few tries to find the right therapist for you. And we love that BetterHelp makes that easy. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/unsolicited today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/unsolicited.
Anyways, we love a tangent.
Yes, we do.
In the beginning of the episode.
Should we just go ahead and get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
I have a good update / tearing it up.
Oh.
Which I thought was fun.
Intrigue.
So we are doing a little bit of both today. The title is, you guessed it, update plus tearing it up. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello, my beautiful, accomplished, and intelligent virtual big sisters. We thank you for that.
I'm sorry, what?
That's going straight to my head for the rest of the day.
Sorry, what?
My name is Laura, and I'm a listener from Spain who wrote to the pod last summer. She adds in parentheses, I gasped when I realized it was so long ago. Time goes by so quickly. So I completely understand if you don't remember my story, which was called, Should I Choose Security Over Freedom?
I feel like that title sounds very familiar. Yeah.
Long story short, I had just graduated from a teaching degree and was asking for advice on whether I should spend the next year studying for my qualification exam, which would grant me a position to the public education system, or have a few more years of freedom, traveling and experiencing life before entering my adult life.
Totally remember now.
Now I remember. And let me tell you, the advice you gave me was exactly what I needed. Per your recommendation, I decided to...
What's that?
Per your recommendation, I decided to put in the effort and prepare for my exam, which was easier since I was so fresh out of university and my brain was already in academic mode, LOL. And good news, I got the highest mark and earned a permanent role at a primary school starting this September.
What?
Which means she's like starting like tomorrow.
Heck yeah.
Also, per your recommendation, I've looked into exchange programs so that I can fulfill my desire of traveling and realize that there are plenty of opportunities to do so while maintaining my job. So basically, we could say, you literally solved my life problem. Thank you for literally being the best.
Okay.
Taryn.
You know what?
Are we good at this?
First of all, the way that I'm instantly sitting, like I'm just
all
like
of a sudden I'm sitting a little straighter. I'm holding my head a little higher.
But also, these updates have been so uplifting and like confirming that we are doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. We are helping solve problems. We are helping people make life-changing decisions.
Watch we get an update where it's like, you ruined my life. And we're like, we've decided to stop doing
We've decided to step down. Ay, that would be awful.
I love that. It's funny, like, you know, when someone will be like, oh, and you told me the other day this, and it was just what I needed to hear. And for me, because I forget things all the time, I'll just be like, oh, dang, I said that? That was smart.
Wow.
I'll be like, who told you that? And they're like, you said that. I'm like, dang, I'm brilliant.
My mom quoted myself
back
to me at one point, and I just remember being like, damn, that was good.
You're like, what happened?
That was really wise. Like,
why can't I be her anymore?
Can't apply that to my own life? It's one of those situations where you're like, wow, I really dropped a ball of wisdom for this other person, and I can't do that to myself. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was the update.
Love that.
Now for her tearing it up. I'm going to tell you a story that just happened as I was catching a flight to Amsterdam, where I'm writing from. I don't know if you can relate to this, but there is something so magical about airports where time and reality don't feel the same, and everything has the potential of becoming a love story. Taryn and I have talked about this.
I don't know if it's everyone.
Oh,
Mandy, is that like a fantasy of yours when you're not, committed and in love? Congratulations. But like the airport, like you sit by a handsome stranger, you start a conversation. Yeah, I think it's everyone.
I think it's a universal thing. I do think to a degree, Taryn and I might take it like another level.
Yeah, because we'll day dreamers.
We'll start fantasizing, and I'll like have planned our whole life together. We've gotten married. I can envision our kids, and then he'll get up and walk away. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, there goes my future walking away. And I didn't even say hi.
I had a flight where I wasn't like, I sat by him and I was like, oh, he's like attractive. He looked very like businessman, like professional, which I was like, oh, this could be new for me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay. And we talked the whole flight. And it was like so great. And I was like, oh my God, is this it? But I was like, he's so respectful. Like he's so whatever. And then I'm not joking, like literally like an hour into the flight where we're just like talking nonstop and like whatever, he just casually in a story says, my wife. And I was like,
did he have a ring on?
No. And I was like, let me tell you something, sir, in my mind.
Right.
I was like, the way I gave up my nap for you.
Yeah.
The way I kept my headphones on, I could
have been reading. I could have been playing a game. I could have been napping.
The way I've been sitting up straight and trying to look all dainty and womanly for you, I was so annoyed. The way I literally, I just like kept going with the conversation, and then as soon as like I was able to, I was like, oh, like I'm gonna like listen to something, and I just like that, because then I'm like, also I'm not the type of person that's gonna be like trying to sit and chat up someone's like husband.
No, well, that's the whole thing is like,
and I was being flirty.
I was gonna say like if married people specifically, but anyone in a committed relationship, the second someone of the opposite sex or anyone starts coming on to you in any way, flirtatiously, whatever, it's your responsibility to make it clear you're taken. Like it is, they don't know.
Yes.
And they're shooting their shot.
Yes.
And that's how you meet a person.
Yes.
We're not mad at them. They're just out here trying their best to meet someone. It is the responsibility of the taken person to immediately mention boyfriend. You don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry. You don't need to make them feel bad. Just be like, oh, I'm taken. You don't need to say that. You can just be like, oh my God, my boyfriend told me the other day that blah, 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 blah.
The way you just casually mentioned your wife, like that could have happened.
You could have casually mentioned her 50 minutes ago, and I wouldn't have been flirting.
No, and I'd be knee deep in like a drooling like nap by now.
Yeah,
like I was just so annoyed.
That's so frustrating.
Like it was a waste of my energy.
Airports and travel in general. I think we all grew up with the like hope that something would come while traveling. That's all the movies. That's all the books. So anyway, she continues, well, there I was on a layover in the Paris airport when I see the most beautiful girl sitting opposite me and smiling at me. We kept making eye contact, and when it was time to board the plane, we were, in all caps, seated next to each other.
Up.
The dream.
The
dream. Like, okay, universe, thank you for the sign. We spent half of the flight talking, and I was already picturing the holiday romance that I was about to experience in Amsterdam. Then I told her that I wanted to sleep for a bit, and she said that I could rest my head on her shoulder. And then asked if I could...
So casual.
So
natural.
And then she asked if I could lend her my earphones. So I said, of course, you could listen to music, and I'll take a nap. As I was starting to fall asleep and dream about our future together, she suddenly woke me up by vigorously shaking the shoulder I was laying on. When I look at her, she had a weird look on her face and was handing me my earphones back, saying, never mind. Confused.
I'm so scared.
Confused about what had happened, I was putting them back in my bag when I realized they were full of earwax.
Okay.
I had given my newly found crush my dirty earphones, and of course, she was disgusted and instantly lost her attraction to me. In conclusion, my ear's proclivity to create wax ruined my airport love story.
Dude, that is so rough.
Hope you got a good laugh out of my misery and wish you girls the absolute best. Love, Laura.
That is so rough.
That's really rough because it's one of those things that like you like you're aware of. And you like, I clean mine, but not every day, you know? And like if someone out of nowhere, you're not expecting a stranger to ask for your earphones. So like there's a high chance mine aren't that clean right now if you were to be like, hey, can I borrow it?
But also I feel like when you have headphones in, like I feel like it makes your ears like sweat and it makes stuff like drain just in general. So I feel like I've never known anyone, even like the cleanest person I know, who hasn't had some stuff on them. Like it's very natural.
Yeah.
You can't take it personally. How bad were they? She said full.
She said full. I'm like, oh, I don't know what that means.
That would gross me out.
I wouldn't be able to put them in my ear. I would just be like, I don't know that I would.
I don't think that'd be a deal breaker.
Yeah, I don't think the vigorously shaking of the shoulder was necessary.
Yeah, calm down.
If she offered for you to lay your head on her shoulder, then like she offered.
Maybe she thought it was just pouring out on her shoulder.
Ew. I would not have put them in my ear.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't have been rude about it. Like that happens to all of us. So whatever. But I am sorry. That's such a bummer.
What? We don't need people who easily scare.
No, I was going to say like that is a normal human thing. So it's not outrageous.
Yeah,
she needed to relax a little bit.
I was debriefing with a friend about an interaction I had with a guy, and for like 15 minutes I'm spiraling on like, oh, like I said this, and I feel like I wasn't clear, and I feel like it came off as this, and I like go through the whole thing of like, okay, like what should I say to like make sure he understands what I said and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like literally spiraling. And then all of a sudden I just had this moment where I was like, can you imagine how exhausting it would be if you were with a person that just misunderstanding a phrase or taking a phrase the wrong way was enough for them to never talk to you again?
Yeah.
And it was like this weird thing where all of a sudden I shifted and was like, I don't want someone who scares off that easy.
No.
So I was like, I'm good. And so sometimes I think those incidents where someone leaves abruptly for like a crazy small thing and you want to go quick into like, no, let me fix it. Like this isn't all the time. But I think those are like blessings in disguise because you don't want someone that it's that tiny of a thing, like something in your teeth while you're talking, or you know what I mean?
Imagine how dramatic they're going to be in a serious relationship. Like all of the little things that you're going to have to like fix for them if they're
She's
that
gonna
dramatic.
make you wash your feet every time you come home.
Yeah. Like there's I think you got a glimpse into like what could have been. And I think you might have dodged a very dramatic diva bullet. So.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Tearing it up. Saves lives.
Updates, tearing it up. So that was a great one.
Yeah,
thank you so much for
really
writing
good.
in. If you guys have a funny airport stranger crush story, send those in, please. That sounds fun.
Love
or
it.
if you had a successful airport romance, would love to hear that because I never got one.
I never have either.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay. This one, like, I'm not gonna lie. This one, like, it tugged at something I didn't know was still under there. You know, like when, I think one of the things I heard someone say that has drastically changed the way I view pain, like past pain, is the whole like, because we all are like, oh, that's a scar in my life, but I'm like healed. But it's like if you pour rubbing alcohol on a scar, it doesn't hurt.
Right.
But if you pour rubbing alcohol and like it still is open, like it's gonna sting.
You're not healed.
And so I feel like I took that to heart so much. And I've noticed if something comes up, like if I'm talking about an ex or I'm talking about like a past trauma or whatever, and I feel that like gut thing, instead of where it's like, oh, shove it down, I'm like, ooh, there's some like remnant still there. And so then I'll like dig into it and I'm like, why is this still hurting me the way it is?
Yeah.
And this one definitely brought up like that was such a like
sting.
That was such a hard time. But anyways, the title is My Boyfriend Loves Me, but he doesn't like me as a person.
Oof.
Anyways, let's keep going. Hi, Ash and Taryn. Love the pod. I'm a day one listener and still waiting every week for a new episode.
Day one listener and still
on our toes.
Yeah. Waiting. Love that.
Do you want some of my energy drink?
Should we start doing like more episodes?
Ashley Nicole.
Wednesdays?
Chill out. Okay.
I'm just thinking.
Ashley's always just trying to get me to quit my job. She's like, so Taryn, like, wanna like record some more?
I'm like, oh, you're leaving again?
Oh.
Thought it was our podcast day.
I've listened to your podcast through so many different times in my life. It's actually crazy. I'd like to stay anonymous. My name is, I don't even know how to pronounce her name. So I get, because she's like, it's very distinctive. So I get why you would want to be not. I mean, that's mine. Like even Taryn is like unique, you know?
Yeah, definitely way more than Ashley.
I'm 20 years old and I have been with my boyfriend for over 2 years now. We knew each other since middle school. We're not in the same high school and got together randomly after we graduated. The time period when we started dating was probably the best time of my life. He brought out sides of me I didn't know existed. We saw each other almost every day and did so many spontaneous mini trips together. Woke up at 5 a.m. to drive up north to some random lake, talked into the night on the beach, and so many other things that made our time together extremely exciting and fun. I feel like he thought I was so interesting back then, and I thought the same about him. We had insanely interesting and unique conversations about so many different things. It was honestly so great. After that, I went to university, and he took a gap year where he worked and traveled. Like he'd work for a few months in our hometown, then take a trip for 2 weeks, then come back, then take another trip for a month, etc. We live in the same city and our country is pretty small. So I came back from uni every weekend and he'd always purposely not take shifts so we could spend time together. We talked every night for 1 to 2 hours, even when he was traveling inside Europe and out, even when he was in Thailand and Africa, which I definitely don't take for granted. Also, because he worked and I was a student, he always insisted on paying for everything and would never make me feel bad about it. He would also insist on driving 2 hours to come to my uni. I basically said that to show how amazing of a boyfriend he is. Mm-hmm. We have so much fun together. We had so much fun together that year, and I was so in love. Then our second year, he started uni, and he comes back every weekend to our hometown. He goes to med school, so it's pretty intense, but we still talk every night and have had good times together. So on to my problem. Mm-hmm. I still love him so much. He's an amazing boyfriend, and I can always communicate to him how I feel when he hurts my feelings, and he's very mature and understanding. But I feel like in the last 6 months, maybe he just doesn't like me anymore. I know he loves me and cares for me, but I just don't feel like he likes me. Like he doesn't find me funny. He doesn't look at me with the same eyes. He isn't attentive when I speak, doesn't sing along with me in car rides. I just can't help but see other couples, definitely not all of them, most of my friends aren't this way, where the guy is absolutely obsessed with the girl, laughs at her jokes all the time, gives the same energy, and they're so in sync. I feel like it's old times when we get into a really interesting topic or convo when we hang out with his or my friends once in a few months, that I think maybe it reminds me of a time when we first started dating, or makes us feel more attracted to each other because we see how other people perceive our partner. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, we do laugh and have fun together, but it's just not like old times. And I know we've been together for a long time now, but I'm so young and I can't give up that feeling just yet. I'm especially worried because we both knew from early on that if all goes well, we'll get married. I really can see a future for us and we really can make this work. Even though we're really young, a lot can change in the next 5 to 10 years. But I just don't really know if I can give up that feeling of being freshly infatuated and in love when I've had so little of it. Mm-hmm. We do fight sometimes because of love language differences, but that is the only thing I can say is challenging in our relationship. I just don't know what to do because I can't let this thing go, but I've also been thinking about this for a while now. I find myself wondering about my potential love life if I'd be single and feel so guilty about wanting that freshly loving feeling from someone else that can give that to me. Thank you. If you read this, it's so long. Love you guys. Love Anonymous.
Oh.
Eek.
It's a weird position to be in when you're just like, okay, we shouldn't be in a funk yet. We shouldn't be in a rut yet. We're so young. We're in college. These are supposed to be like the best years of our lives. But like, what do I do? I love him and like he loves me. That's tough. What I will say is, and I wish you were here in person. Have you voiced this to him? Like, have you told him that like you feel like you've lost a spark? Because like collectively, that's something you guys could work on together. It's hard when you're in school. This happens older and when you grow up too, like with work, like sometimes work just has to take the priority and the spark is going to be gone for a while because like you both need to like pursue different things. Doesn't mean you don't love each other. It just means like you can't pour into the sparks and the fun and the excitement when like he's studying for med school. Like that is that's a lot that he's trying to juggle. But you can work together on like bringing that spark back and like making more planned dates instead of just hangouts. Like you can plan something specific to bring that spark back. Like, hey, like let's make a nice reservation and get dressed up. Mm-hmm. Just the two of us, and like sometimes I think, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Sometimes I think we want a very specific thing and we want that person to do that thing. Unless you outright tell them to do that, they just don't know. So if you're looking for more of a spark, you either need to tell him what you're looking for so that he can like start planning accordingly, or you can plan it yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't want to plan things themselves, but also like, how are you going to get exactly what you want if you don't plan things yourself? I see nothing wrong and nothing less romantic by scheduling something on the Google Calendar. Like, let's be honest. You're in school. He's in school. He's in med school. Like, he's got a lot going on. You've got a lot going on. Let's pick a date 2 weeks from now. Let's pick a nice restaurant, a nice spot. Let's get dressed up. Like, that's something you can look forward to. It's something exciting to look forward to and feel excited about. And then getting all dressed up brings sparks back. And then seeing him all dressed up brings sparks back. And I think there's nothing wrong in planning stuff like that for yourself.
Yeah.
For the two of you.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard because, and I want to preface this so, like, I really need you to hear me say this, Anonymous, because I don't want you to parallel what I'm going to say about my experience and be like, oh, see, I knew this was, because everyone's relationship and circumstance is so different.
Totally.
But I will say that was the start of the downfall of my relationship, was me starting to notice those things. And it's so heartbreaking because it puts you in this defense of like fighting to be what that person wants. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically, because let's be real, I'm funny.
You're hilarious.
I'm funny.
You're so funny.
Like, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, just because I'm like a doofus, but like I am a light person. Like it's not hard to have fun with me. Like, mm-hmm. I'm just like a breezy person, right? Yeah. And I remember so many times, like, I would come home from work. First of all, he would never ask me questions. So I was like, that's weird, because like he used to ask me like how my day was. And that's where the shift comes, when you're like, why is this different? Like, it's weird. But then I would tell a story and I would like look at him because it was like something funny. And I remember sometimes like he would have totally checked out and not been listening, or he'd just be like, oh, like that's it. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing that started happening is I would be hanging out with him and all his friends. And I would say something or tell a story or just like say like a funny joke or like whatever. And his friends would be like dying laughing. And I would look at him and he would just be like stoic. And so when those things happen, like you feel stupid being like, because I remember sitting, I'd be like, you don't like think I'm funny. Like you don't. And for a person who like feels like that's like one of her like gifts is mm-hmm. that like I feel I love making people laugh. Like I love making people happy. That's like a huge part of like who I am. Mm-hmm. I just was so confused by that. And then it spiraled into other things where it's like, you just like don't seem interested. Like you're checked out. Like you're interrupting me in the middle of my sentence, which shows me like you weren't even like listening. Yeah. And it's so hard to feel that person like they're right there, but they're not there.
Yeah.
And so I get that it's like you don't know how to approach it and you don't know how to balance those things, but you're only 20.
I mean, I'm thinking max 22.
I think that there are phases in relationships, and we've talked about this before. He might be overstimulated, overworked through med school and stuff like that, and he just is tired and can't put out a lot. Mm-hmm. But if this is something like you've had talks with him and he's just like, I don't know what you want from me, I feel like me at 20 and me, I mean, I was like in my like early mid 20s when my relationship happened, but I think about I was still willing to like sacrifice and just marry him. And when I think now about what I would be giving up, like I would be dimming a huge part of who I was to like be with this person. Yeah. And I just think that you should tread carefully. Yeah. Because I don't think if you're chasing infatuation, I don't think that's realistic. Yeah. But if it's purely like this guy just doesn't even seem interested in me, that's like, that shouldn't be happening already.
It shouldn't be happening.
You got a long life to feel like you're just somebody's like
whatever.
Yeah.
Settled for, you know, like, and that's not what you want. That's not what he wants. So I think if I were you, what I would do is I would make, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm very literal and I like timelines. So I'd give myself a month of really putting forth an effort, like really going out of my way. Like if we were talking about Taryn's situation, like I would be like asking him all types of questions when he gets home, like waiting to see if he responds to you in the same way. I'd plan a nice date, see how he reacts, if he even shows up, if he has to cancel, you say you want to get ready, does he even get ready? Like, let's take a bunch of notes, mental notes, so that we can know for sure that he's not into this anymore before moving forward. Sometimes I think I personally need to see like the stats. I need to see the receipts before I'm able to make like a big decision like that. And I would be like, all right, like I'm going to give myself 2 months to see if we can turn this around and bring that spark back, bring that feeling back, to see if he's going to like respond in the same way or feels the same way. And then we can make a decision from there. So maybe come up with a plan, make a special date, give yourself a timeline, a month, 2 months, but like hold yourself to it. And like, don't just sit back and see what happens. Like take action and see if he responds and like say certain specific things and see how he reacts and like plan that date and see if he's into it or not. And if all of it shows to one specific direction, then you have your answer and you can move forward with more confidence, being like, hey, like, I think you feel it too. Like, this isn't it anymore.
Yeah, because I was going to say, because she's saying, like, I'm finding myself, like, wondering what it would be like to be single. Like, that's a
2 years? You should be, like, in that prime.
Yes.
You know?
So, like, honestly, if I were genuinely you, I would literally just randomly throw him off one day and just be sitting. And if it's, like, silent, I would, like, look him straight in the face and just be like, are you genuinely happy in this relationship?
Yeah.
And just see what he says. And then if he's like, wow, what are you talking about? Being like, you don't laugh at me anymore. You don't like you don't seem like thrilled when we're together. Like I've seen just like a very big difference from the beginning to now. And I would rather us be honest with each other if stuff has just kind of like dwindled down. Like I don't want to drag this on and get to a point where we like hate each other.
And
like I'd rather just talk about it.
Years of our lives, you know, like that's not fair.
And just see what he says. Like
I was listening to a really good podcast the other day about relationships.
Oh, Unsolicited Advice?
Oh, plug. A little self-promo there. Plot twist. You thought it was someone else. It was me. And they were talking about like how to have healthy conversations with your partner. And obviously this was a married couple, so it's a little different. But if you've been together for a while, like anyone could utilize this. And it was just like this husband and wife made a commitment to every Monday they have a moment where they ask each other like, hey, how have I been as a husband this week? Mm-hmm. How have I been as a wife this week? And they're allowed to, because this is something they have made very clear.
They've created a safe, open space.
You are allowed to unleash anything. And the response of the other person is supposed to be thank you, because you're just supposed to let that person be honest about how that week has been and how they've been and how they felt.
Literally like our roommate meetings. And I think the way that's successful is if you set up with the other person, this is a safe space, because you go into it being like, I'm not going to be on the offensive.
Yeah.
I genuinely am going to sit here and hear what they have to say and also share. So you like create that like trust relationship.
Yes, because at the end of the day, like whether you agree with how things were communicated or not, your partner, your life partner is feeling something, and your life partner has a right to feel something, and you're supposed to work on that stuff together. So I think, I'm not saying you need to have this foundational conversation every single week, but I think that's something you could use. And you could just simply be like, hey, like, how's dating me been this last year? Like, how have I been as a girlfriend?
How am I doing? You have like a notepad. How am
I
doing?
Any normal human is going to be like, is going to respond and then be like, so how have I been doing? And then that kind of gives you a little leeway of like, you've been great. I know you've been really busy. But if I'm going to be honest, I feel like you're not really enjoying this relationship anymore. That's what it seems like from my perspective. You don't really talk with me anymore. You don't seem happy to be around me anymore. We don't do anything. And I recognize that you're in med school. I do. And I've been trying to give you like a break on that, but also like that's just kind of how it seems, which has been kind of bumming me out. Then he can elaborate and he can say, yeah, you know, I'm sorry. I can't really prioritize you right now. And you're gonna be like, cool. I get it. I'm going to remove myself from the situation then, because I don't like how it's making me feel, and I need to be prioritized. And a respectful adult man would be like, I get that. Like, that sucks. But if he's in this, he's going to be like, babe,
like, how am I making you feel that way?
That's not my intention. I'm so sorry. I've just been so busy. And that gives you the opportunity to be like, I get it. I understand. Like, I'm trying to not bother you during school right now, but we need to figure something out, because it's not working right now. And collectively, you two can get through this if you are both on the same page. You just got to figure out if you're on the same page or not.
Yeah, I think it's good, because it's hard. Like, I wasn't the only one, but like we drove our relationship like into the ground by the end, because I was just so miserable and desperately trying to get anything from him. Mm-hmm. And the more I tried, the more he was like, oh my God, like, leave me alone. So it was like, it got to too much of a point. And I think what was so hard is we clung to how much we like genuinely like loved each other, but we were just like not good for each other. And so I think that's where it gets hard. And I think sometimes like what's so sad, and I think the older you get, the more you realize like love is like not always enough. No. Like, there's so much that comes to it. And
that happens a lot with high school sweethearts. That happens a lot in college. The younger you are, the more like, actually all you had was love. There was actually no compatibility. There was actually like no logistical reason that you guys would have worked. It was just like an emotion that you guys had both shared. And that's tough, because sometimes that's just not doable.
Well, and like, I mean, I've always had this theory about relationships is you have two individual people that both have their own damage and their own baggage that they bring. And you can be perfect for each other. You can be literally personality soulmates, like have so much fun. You're so attracted. Like, it's so easy when you're together. But your individual damage either can coexist, or it's going to amplify and trigger and bring out the other person's damage more. And I think that sometimes, unfortunately, that just happens. And that was like my issue, is my things I struggled with amplified his, and his things he struggled with like created all this new damage like within me too. So it was like, that was what was so hard, is because I think in so many ways we were soulmates. Like, we just vibed so well. Like, everything about us, like everyone when we were together, they were just like, you are our favorite couple. Like, you guys are so amazing together. And I think that's what we fought so hard for. But it was like, we're freaking miserable. Like, miserable at the end, you
I
know?
had an ex like that where it was one of those things, we just clicked and it was so much fun. There was no future for us. I knew that. I don't know that he fully knew that, but like, I was like, there's
this isn't going to go anywhere. But like, we just clicked, and it was such a fun relationship. And it was one of those things where I just had to be like, we can't, like, this is pointless. And, yeah, I had to have a moment where I had to realize that. And it feels like you're coming to a point where you're starting to feel like you need to deal with that too. And the sooner the better, unfortunately. So I would start doing some like self-checks, like check in, give a little effort and see if he's responding in any type of way. If you feel like it's a no, then I would have that conversation where you're just like, hey, how have you been feeling? How have I been? Let's talk about us.
Let's rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah. To Unsolicited Advice. And they can, help us through this. Imagine we bring them on the show.
Oh, dang.
We're like,
let's talk about it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That is the suckiest feeling. That is the suckiest feeling.
No, it's the worst because you're just, it's so hard to not take that so freaking personal because it's you. Like, it's your... But then again, like, it's not you. It's like their issues and their preferences, and that's not a reflection on you. But dude, it also matters. Like, I learned so much that really is important to me. Like, if I can't be with someone who thinks I'm funny and like appreciates that side of my personality, like, I know I always joke about it, like how I'm like Tinkerbell, like you have to like find me funny and laugh for me to live. But like, it is something that's important because it's like, it's such a huge part. I love laughing. I love like just being weird and whatever. And if I can't have a partner who doesn't just tolerate that, but is like obsessed with that about me, like, you know what I mean?
That should be like one of their main things.
Yeah.
About you. And
so I think it's important. And if you feel like you're dwindling and
I hope you don't.
Reading that sentence, like he doesn't laugh or he doesn't find me funny, I was like, that's when I was like, oop, that's still
And I feel like we kind of touched on this, but the only last bit of advice I would say is I wouldn't wait.
No.
I would hurry this along because the last thing you want is to be feeling this way for the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Like, let's not do that. Let's have that check-in this week and then let's have that conversation immediately after. Like, let's just do it. Because either we're going to fix this and let's fix it now so you don't feel this way anymore, or we're going to end this and end it now so you don't feel this way anymore.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, you shouldn't be feeling this way and you shouldn't be dragging it out either. It's just going to make it worse.
Yeah. Oof. Woof.
I feel sick to my stomach.
I know.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into mine. Thank you for writing in.
Yes.
Anonymous. Okay, this is a fun one.
I'm excited.
To brighten up the mood, we're going to change it up a little bit. This one is titled, I've waited a year and he is finally single. What now? Hello. I wanted to start off by saying I would like this email to be anonymous, although the tea is so specific that anyone who knows me will likely know exactly what, or rather who, I am talking about. I am a long-term listener and lover of the podcast and YouTube channels. I've been watching Ashley and Alicia's videos for probably forever, and I always wanted more Taryn in videos. So when you guys announced your podcast, it was literally a dream come true. I love you guys dearly.
Cute.
Precious. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am 21, an Enneagram 2, Wing 3. Hey, Taryn.
Literally
Taryn. And I haven't never been in a relationship before. That is the kind of backstory I need from all of you listeners. When you write in, I want to know where you're from, what your age is, like tell me your personality type, all the details. I love it. I feel like I know who I'm talking to now.
Yep.
I've dated, but never been in anything official or labeled other than, a situationship purgatory. I want to give you guys as much helpful context as possible, but also keep this email from being lengthy. So here we go. About a year ago, I gained a new coworker. Let's call him Josh. I have worked at this same job for ages, and everyone there is like family to me. So as soon as this new male human started, I immediately knew no peace from anyone at work. But I couldn't blame them, as this man is 6'3", built like a god, has the most intricate green eyes, and the most kind, loving, charismatic, easygoing personality.
Wow.
He checks a lot of boxes and is quite literally exactly who my mom had always dreamed I would end up with. She adds in parentheses, mixed emotions about that, but that is an entirely different email. Let's just say my head was turned and I was smitten immediately. He was 27, a bit of an age gap, but I've been known to go for older guys and don't have an issue with it personally. Perfect. Him and I worked pretty closely as I am one of the higher ups, so we got to know each other well over the summer. It felt like we kept on getting put into these forced proximity situations. She has in parentheses, not complaining. And it always felt so easy, natural, and comfortable. We would hang out outside of work too and could talk for hours. I knew that even if nothing ever happened, I liked hanging around him and would be fine being just friends. I also wasn't even sure if he was into women. We had not breached that subject yet at all, but I had my suspicions. A little over a month passed where we barely saw each other at work because my schedule was unbelievably busy with classes. Our first shift back together, he told me he had just gotten a girlfriend.
Ugh.
So, like, at least I know he's into women. ... But, like, woof. Like a professional, I put my feelings aside, found petty ways to give myself the ick, and we continued being friends and coworkers.
I've done that before where I'm
you're
like, I can't like you, so I need to like find ways to not like you.
You're going to be like, wow, that was cute. No, that was annoying.
Yeah, that was annoying, so Ashley. Annoying. Ew, I can't believe he eats noodles with a fork.
It's disgusting. Ew.
Gross.
He orders a like vanilla latte and you're like,
ew, vanilla's so basic. Me getting a vanilla latte every day of my life.
Plus, maybe he didn't even see me like that because of our age gap. December rolls around and I'm about to leave for a semester abroad for college. He had been so supportive and helpful while I was dealing with all of the crazy logistics that come with making this happen. And just before I left, he told me while at work that he and his girlfriend broke up. Ooh. I asked about the situation and we talked about it briefly, and then he immediately yet very casually asked if I was planning on dating while abroad. I still had mixed emotions about what this interaction meant, and my friends have told me varying interpretations, but the majority think it was a hint that just completely went over my head because I was so far through in writing him off as an option. Mm-hmm. During my semester abroad, I got to thinking, and even after 5 months apart, I was still interested in him. We rarely talked when I was abroad, but both of us are very in-person people, so I wasn't surprised or affected by this. Mm-hmm. As soon as I returned, I was offered a second job. The company I now work for is literally owned by his parents.
Oh,
he also works there. This makes us coworkers at 2 jobs. Also, while I was abroad, Josh got a new girlfriend literally 2 months before I came home, and one day after I realized I wanted to tell him about my feelings when I got back. The universe is cruel, so obviously I didn't tell him. I'm not about to ruin anything for him or the girl he was seeing. We got dinner after I got back to the States and caught up. He told me about his girlfriend, and I told him about the dates I went on while abroad, and life carried on. That is, until last week. We got coffee to talk about a new project we are working on together for one of our jobs. What the is life? She adds in parentheses. I could tell something was off with him, and that is when he told me he had, all caps and in bold, broken up with his girlfriend.
Thank God.
And then she adds, red alert. Yeah. I love her. The way she writes this is cute. So here we are. I now have no clue what to do. I still like him. And I'm realizing this now, but we are coworkers in so many ways. And now his family is involved. I've gotten to know his parents, who are so sweet and kind and love me. And I don't want to jeopardize or make anything awkward for anyone. And I still don't know for certain if my feelings are reciprocated. And our lives are way too intertwined for anything to go wrong. But we are also both mature adults who I believe have the ability to continue on with normal life should something happen. I would die inside, but I would deal with it. So guys, please, what do I do? Do I tell him while I have an opportunity and we are both single? How do I even do that? Never have I ever done this before. Do I give up because there's so much writing on it? Do I need to find out first in a subtle way, of course, if he has feelings too? Basically, just a cry for help at this point. Any advice or thoughts you two have is so solicited and so appreciated. I love you both and what you do for your listeners. Keep doing what you're doing. All my love. Anonymous.
I love this.
I love this.
I immediately have 2 ways that I would approach it.
So many thoughts.
Immediately.
Let's go with approach number 1.
Approach number 1 is I would super casually make a joke about it and watch really carefully his response.
Yes.
So I would
physically, what he says, everything.
Next time we're hanging out, and I would be like, oh my gosh, like I had the worst date the other day. Like, dear God, the dating pool is horrible. And then I would look at him and be like, should we just date? Like, should we just like cut out all these people?
Yeah.
And then I feel like that sounds like a funny just like joke because it's like he just broke up with someone.
Yeah.
I had a terrible date. It feels very natural, like whatever. Yeah. But I would watch it, and if he like responded and was like, wait, like should we? Like ha ha ha. Yeah. Then I would be like, okay, like he's not like totally closed off to it because every joke has some truth behind it. Mm-hmm. So that's one way I would do it, is just casually throw out like a little silly joke. The other way I would do it, and I've said this so many times and I've done this so many times and I think it's great, is I would literally just in a super casual conversation be like, hey, sometimes I feel like I'm picking up on a vibe, and like I know we're friends and I don't want anything to be weird, but I was just curious if that was just me or if that's like, do you pick up on a vibe between us two? And then if he's like, like, I don't know, like, I just thought of us as friends. Be like, okay. I just had to it was like a weird little thought that like I was thinking about, and I just had to like get it out of the way. And then just be like,
glad
amazing, pound it, bro. Like, I'll see you on Monday. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And then just over the top, even if I'm dying inside, act so normal for like the next few times I see him.
Fake it till you make it for the next 2 weeks, and then it'll go back to normal.
But if like that's the opportunity that makes it super casual. So it's not like, hey, I've always had feelings for you. Like that's a conversation that can come later.
Yes.
But that's a good way to just kind of like be like, hey, are you picking up what I'm throwing down?
Let's fish a little bit. Let's see what's going on. I agree with Taryn. I feel like you have 2 options. You either have to be super subtle and see how he responds, or you have to just call it as it is, like outright, and just like be okay with the answer, whatever it is. I do think though, I don't think it needs to be this big thing if you guys do like end up trying to make this work for the both of you. Like, let's say, you hint and he's like, I mean, our coffees are way better than any date I've ever been on. If he says something like that, then you're just like, perfect. Then, well, no one needs to know. Like, his parents don't need to know. And it could be a fun, like, let's not tell anyone and just see what happens. It doesn't have to be a family ending thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. The pact one where you're like, should we make a pact? Like, if we're both 30 and single, we just get married together and just like travel the world. Like,
or you could make a fun, like 3-date pact. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, like, let's commit to giving each other 3 dates and see if there's, let's not do anything physical. Let's just do like, I'm not saying not kiss, but like, because there's jobs involved too. And his parents, I vote we keep it clean. I would say, hey, let's do like 3 intentional dates and see if there's a spark there. And if by the 3rd date, and on the 3rd date, let's have an open and honest conversation. If even one of us doesn't quite feel it, squash it. Yeah. We're back to work. We're not going to do anything. It's not going to be weird.
And we'll joke about it
and
later.
No one needs to know. And it can be this funny joke.
Even though I want to die inside.
Yes. But then, that gives you 3 dates to
feel it out.
Show up. That gives you 3 dates to go into like dating mode instead of friend mode. Like, you can show up looking hot as hell. I mean, so gorgeous. And he'll just be like, whoa, like I haven't seen this side of her before, And I feel like that gives you 3 dates to like really show up and show out. And, obviously you guys vibe. Like, you clearly have chemistry.
Yeah.
If you work in 2 jobs, obviously he approved you working there. His parents must have been like, what do you think? And he was probably like, she's the best, Or he's like, oh man, she's so awesome. And the parents are like scheming and they're over here like, let's get them together. I can't wait to do that for my kids one day.
Literally.
So yeah, I think I don't know enough about your personality, but I think you kind of subtly hint that you have more fun on your coffee dates with him than any date you've ever been on. Dates have been sucking. You very much more enjoy him. And then you can be like, I guess we should date. See what he says.
And then you're like, wide eye, like watching his reaction. And
Pulls
if he's like,
your glasses.
If he's like, ew, stop, get out of here. You're like, haha, just kidding.
You're like, well,
And you go home and you're like,
yeah. And then like take it from there. But I wouldn't be shocked if I kind of agree with your friends. I wouldn't be shocked if he has feelings because of what he said before you left and he was curious if you were going to date overseas.
Also, dude, I've said this a few episodes ago, but like, don't prolong the rejection. Like, just get it out of the way.
Just
like,
get it done.
Get it out of the way and then free up that headspace. Because again, sometimes I think even without realizing, oh my God, sorry, something's in my eye. Even without realizing, I think we like close off everything for business because we're so focused in putting everything on a guy that like
other guys could be literally buzzing around you and you're not even aware because this guy's taking up so much of your space.
Just get it out of the way. And even if it's like just the subtle joke and he says it and then that's you're like, okay, now I know like I need to close it off. Yeah. And even if you operate in that way, say like a year from now he like starts pursuing you heavily, then cool. Cool. But you'll already be at a place where you're looking elsewhere. You're not putting all your time in it. And you were the
one who dropped it the first time.
Exactly.
So like then it's his turn.
Exactly.
I love a little work romance.
I love it too.
HR would be screaming, but I'm here for it. I approve.
I love it. I'm going to need an update on this one. 5,000%.
Anonymous. You have no choice. You have zero choice. I hope that you like expedite this conversation so that in like a month or so we have an update because I'm dying to know what happens.
Yeah, dude. I had a fling start because of that where I was like, should we just like date? Should we just like fall in love? Yeah. And he played off of it. And then like I started calling him like babe.
Yeah.
And so then we just like, I'd be like, hey babe, like blah, blah, blah. Like, what are you doing? And like, we would hang out and it got like really flirty and it was like really fun. It didn't go anywhere obviously, but literally it was just off that. Like I just threw it out there and he played it back. And so then we just kept going, like feeding into it.
Oh, I love that. When I like had first started dating Jackson, once I knew like I really liked him, I definitely dropped like, oh, I guess we're getting married now. Yeah. Like just to make it clear that he knew that I was in this, you know, and it doesn't always have to be like this serious conversation. It can be like subtle little hints.
Not like
it's
you're
more
like,
fun that
I
way.
want a 7-carat oval cut. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like throw out the joke. And then if he's like, ew, get out of here, be like, I'm just kidding. LOL. Ew, you're not my type. And then just like go on. Like,
then you move on and then you hop on the dating apps and you get yourself in a date immediately.
Palate cleanser. Well, should I like?
You should probably
end us.
Probably wrap us up with a dad joke.
Why do nurses like red crayons?
Red
line?
Red line to die.
Because sometimes they have to draw blood.
Dang, that's good. Guys, if you made it to the dad joke, you already know the drill. We love you the mostest. Subscribe to our Supercast premium subscription service where you can get bonus content of Taryn and I, solo episodes, scary episodes. Definitely subscribe for October series. Even if it's just for October series, you're going to want to do it because you'll be getting double the scary stories. And also get excited because of October series. If you have a scary story you want to submit, send them in now.
Do it now.
Put October series in the title so we know that it's for October series. And we'll talk soon.
Yes.
Oh, if you want a story you want read on this podcast, email them to us. And what's the email, Taryn?
Advice unsolicitedpod@gmail.com.
Gmail.
We love you guys. Thanks for writing in and being a part of our little crew.
Our little family.
Yeah.
We love you. Bye.